On today's episode, we'll talk about starting your journey in a business writing class, trusting your intuition, the ZG, Kendrick Lamar, and of course, the importance of listening to your mom. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll. Rolling.
Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello and welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I'm your host, Dave Comites, and I am here yet again from Panavision Woodland Hills in the theater because it sounds better than the backseat of my Prius. I'm really excited today to have a younger, newer, I don't know, a beginning, starting out operator who's doing amazing things, though. Adeshola Adigun.
You got it.
Yes. Who definitely, by the way, has one of probably the coolest name in Steadicam. I'll give you that.
That's crazy.
Which unfortunately doesn't mean anything, but it's still pretty cool.
Nah, it means a lot to me.
Anyway, he is a young, up-and-coming Steadicam operator and camera operator. Some of the things that he has done, both Steadicam, ZG, and some conventional A camera operating on Foxbody, an upcoming short film directed and written by Cameron Monaghan. Camera operator on Kendrick Lamar 2023 Music Festival Tour, which I want to ask you about because that's got to be cool. Steadicam operator on upcoming Black Tuxedo Cash App music video. DP camera operator on Earl Sweatshirt Doris 10-year anniversary documentary. Steadicam operator on Natasha Huntley Tell Me That It Never Really Ends music video. According to his Instagram, which has a lot of followers, and I follow a bunch of music videos and commercials and short films, and soon to be, I'm sure, big narratives. I have no doubt. Thank you for being here.
Wow, man. Thank you for having me. I'm going to just say for the record, this is fucking crazy. I'm honored.
We'll see. No, it's not at all.
Nah.
I'm psyched. It's great. Well, one of the reasons, so we'll go back into how we met in a second, but yeah. I asked you to come here because, and I've said this before about other people, but you're like right in the thick of it. I could talk to Chris Harhoff about what it was like to jump in to operate, but like we're all thinking back 30 years.
Totally, yeah.
You're like in the thick of it. So,
yeah.
and you know, I haven't worked with you, but I know I've talked to you and you got the work ethic down, no question, and you seem to be working all the time, and the people I know who have worked with you say you do great work. So clearly you're someone who's kind of, who's getting there, or whatever that word is. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. I hope so, man.
So I just want to hear what that deal is, but why don't you tell people how we met?
Totally, yeah. It's a special story.
It's a great story. I love this
It's
story.
so fucking cool. Also, just want to say, you name dropped Chris Harhoff. He's one of my first teachers. Greg Smith being the very first, and then Harhoff and David Emmerichs when I did their workshop, the Great Western.
Amazing. So,
end of 2022.
So Greg has, is it just
Steadicam lessons?
Steadicam lessons.
Yes.
You can look it up. He teaches private Steadicam lessons.
Yeah, Steadicam lessons on Instagram. His website, I believe, is also steadicamlessons.com.
Yeah.
Great guy, great teacher, great coach. He's in all of our heads. All of us who've taken classes with him,
great.
We hear him all the time.
Fantastic. I love it.
Just want to shout those guys out. Well, you and I met at the SOC Awards in 2023. So
2 years ago.
February.
Right? Or a year? A little over a year ago.
Yeah, February last year. That was just a special weekend for me in general. But to actually get to meet you, you had just won an award for Operator of the Year alongside
Chris Trova.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I don't know what, sometimes I just get this energy to just, I don't know. For me, like you guys, I look up to you guys, all my predecessors in camera operating and Steadicam operating in like a way that a lay person looks up to like some celebrity of some sort. Like you guys are celebrities to me.
And then you meet us and realize.
Say it again?
I said, and then you meet us and realize like, oh man.
Nah. It stays, dude. But it was really cool. I introduced myself to you. You know, I just wanted to give you props for your work, some of your work on Snowfall, and obviously for winning the award. But you know, you gave me the time of day, which was already dope. And then as we were about to leave, we were leaving around the same time, and you came up to me with your award in tow, in hand, and told me to take a picture with you. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then you're like, no, like hold the award. And I was like, what the fuck? That was like,
forgot about
that was so cool, man. And I didn't get to tell you because like the starstruck thing, I'm being sincere. Like Donnie Darko is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I'm sure
God,
you hear
you're
this
one of
shit
those,
all the
man.
time. But like,
Yeah.
after the fact, I was like, man, I didn't say anything about Donnie Darko. I was like, I'll get to tell him at some point. So anyways, that's how we met. And yeah.
Well, the thing that I remember about that was, you know, is the SOC Awards, and you get Camera Operator of the Year. And I'm not diminishing an SOC Award in any way, but I actually believe that when you go there are 5, well, usually there are 5 nominees. There were 5 great things that year, and they just got to decide on someone. So there, to me, it's a little bit of everybody's coming up and blah 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 and this and that, but it's also like a little like, you know, we're all in this together. You know, we're all doing good work. And you came up, I mean, first of all, looking much better in your tuxedo than I was looking in my tuxedo. And you introduced yourself to me. You were so excited, and I remember very specifically, which stuck out to me. You said, hey, if you could give me one piece of advice to a younger camera operator, what would that be? And the truth of the matter is, like, you're there and everybody's in a tuxedo and everybody's grabbing drinks and there's food and, you know, you're holding this award and everybody's coming up. And that was so grounding for me. That's one of the reasons why it stuck out to me, because I was like, yeah, this is why we all want to be here. It's because we all want to pass stuff on.
Yeah.
So, and you remember what I told you?
Nope. that's the irony.
All right,
I guess.
You get out of here.
Yeah,
You're
gone.
off the podcast.
Yeah.
No, what I told you was that because I was like, oh crap, one thing, and then I was thinking I should say something snarky like I usually do, and I was like, no, I'll actually give him something. And I remember saying, when you have stand-ins, check them standing up and check them sitting down, because it'll bone you because you'll be in a car. And a stand-in will sit in, and their torso is 4 inches taller or shorter than someone. And you lock some camera on the front of the car, and the key grips like you sat, and blah blah. And you see, and then the actor sits in, and they're covered by the steering wheel because they're totally different.
Right.
So like, you know, when you got to sit in, check them sitting next to each other. Hey, just before you leave, can I have a stand-in sitting there? Yeah, oh, okay, you're an inch shorter. All right, good, I got it. And then you know. And that was I remember going, that's something I wish I knew, and I learned the hard way.
Totally. Thank you for reminding me consciously, but funny, subconsciously I did remember, because actually that first credit that you listed, that short film that I just worked on, which was actually my first celluloid Steadicam job as well, which is really fucking dope. Panavision XL2 35 millimeter
That's
film.
sweet.
Yeah, Cameron was the lead actor in it, and his stand-in was, Cameron was the director as well, so he's doing a bunch of things, and we had a stand-in for him. And I don't do a whole lot of work where I have stand-ins, so when we had our stand-in was like maybe 3 inches taller than Cameron, so I recognized what you were saying without consciously remembering it.
Well, you learn it quickly one way or the other. Just the question of, do you get caught in it?
Right.
But anyway, that was a really that moment stuck out to me, because I was like, in the midst of all this stuff that's, again, nothing against the SOC, nothing against the awards. I'm just talking about awards in general. I could still screw up a shot tomorrow. I'm not the best or whatever. It was this real moment that really, like, that was the highlight of the night for me, to be honest, was you coming up and going, I love your work, and just, us having a conversation. Yeah. But tell me how you got here. What's your story, man? Well, first of all, where's your name from?
My name is from Nigeria, from the Yoruba tribe. My family is Yoruba.
Wow.
Both my parents were from Nigeria.
So you first generation American?
Yeah, I'm first gen.
You've been back at all? You have like family there?
Yeah, I've been 3 times. The last time was first time was in 2009. The last time was the beginning of 2018, the end of 2017 into 2018. And then COVID kind of messed up that pattern of every 4 years or so that I would go with my aunt and cousins and stuff. I was born in Brooklyn, but my parents, like, they're both from Nigeria, and they met in New York, which is how I got to Brooklyn. And man, the long story short-ish is that my parents split when I was pretty young, like 3-4 years old. I mostly grew up in Queens because we moved there when I was like 3. And when I was 12, my mom, who raised my brother and I, took me and my brother in tow with her to Cape Coral, Florida. So that's where I did 8th grade, high school, community college. And there's like an interesting tidbit on how I wound up going to Savannah College of Art and Design. Like one of my best friends from high school, he went straight there while I was in community college, and he would come back into town and like show me all these short films and music videos they were working on at SCAD in the film program. He was a sound person, but they were all helping each other with their projects and whatnot. So yeah, he would just come and show me stuff that they worked on. We would like skate and stuff. And then one of those breaks that he came to visit, he told me and my boy Gene that we should go with him to SCAD to just visit Savannah and see what SCAD was like and stuff. So we went up there, and I just fell in love with the city of Savannah, to be completely honest.
That's beautiful.
And I know you spent some time
I was just there
too.
teaching at SCAD. I totally forgot you were at SCAD. That's good.
Yeah. Savannah just like was enchanting. But like also, you know, Kurt Pierce, he's a sound person in New York now. He was like having me hang out with him and all his film friends that, you know, they were just partying and whatnot. And I used to party in Florida, but like partying in Florida is just like everybody's just getting wasted. And I feel like nobody's really like, at least at the time, in my experience, nobody was like talking about things that were like things that they were working on or excited about. And I go with Kurt and Gene to Savannah, and now I'm at these parties getting wasted with kids, but they're talking about their favorite films or projects that they're working on. Like I was surrounded by creative people.
And these were mostly SCAD kids. I'm assuming. Yeah, because that's what they're there for, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I never identified as a creative. Like, you know, I was like a cool kid, but I was also kind of weird and a little bit of an outside. Like,
But did you want to be a filmmaker?
No, see, I'm like one of those people
No
that.
way.
And what's the name of the part of your podcast where people talk about somebody that inspired them? Where it's like the one person, like a teacher or somebody.
Oh, you mean I'm sorry, I'm not. Oh, yeah. That one voice. Yeah,
that one voice. So for me in my life and on my journey, like going to Savannah with Kurt and Gene was a part of this journey. But that one voice for me was Maria Cahill, one of my composition professors in community college, Edison State College at the time in Southwest Florida. She encouraged me to take her creative writing class that she was going to be teaching for the first, like it was the first time that class would be offered on campus. And something that I wrote in her business writing class about like the first time I went to like a huge hip hop concert, I used the angle, like I just made it a creative writing piece, even though it was like a business writing class. And she came up to me during class, like nobody else in this class. She came up to me like during class and was like, "Hey, I'm teaching this creative writing class next semester. You should take it." And that's pretty much all she said. But I was like, why the fuck she said it to me? So it stayed with me, and I started thinking about it. I was like, I was always good in like English and language arts classes. I just felt like everybody was supposed to be good at that, so I didn't think anything of it. But like, I had a teacher in 10th grade who, first period in school before like class properly started, was like, "Hey, I'm writing this, I don't know, this like short story. Can you check it out? Give me some feedback." And I was like, I don't know, like some shithead like New Yorker in Florida thinking he's a shit, listening to Nas and all that. Like, why is he asking me? So because of her, that one voice, like, you know, I reassessed things and I was like, oh, I've kind of always been good at that. So to kind of, you know, round this out, because I found out that SCAD had a writing major and I was in this in-between period of deciding like if I would like transfer to school in Orlando or some shit like that, I was just like, oh, I can just try to transfer to SCAD. And
so you'd done like 2 years of community college or something?
At that point, it was like 2.5. I was like on some like, I didn't even plan on going to college. My mom, bless her heart, man, and may she rest in peace. She, I don't know, in Nigerian families and culture, it's not really a question of whether you're going to go to college. Like, you're going to go to college. Like, education is everything. And, you know, I was still am to some degree, like, very rebellious. And I just didn't plan on going to college. And it was like right after I graduated high school, you know, she wound up like with a lot of grace because she knew how I was, like approaching me about it and being like, "Hey, you know, I think you should look into like taking a couple classes at Edison." It was at the time community college, just and see how you like it. So because of her, I wound up taking the placement test and all that, and going to school there. But I didn't plan on going to school, so it was kind of like...
That's what moms do.
Yeah,
they get you to do stuff you don't want to do when they know it's better for you. Yeah.
No doubt.
In a way that you're like, it sneaks up and you're like, wait, what happened?
No doubt, no doubt.
How'd that work? So then you went to SCAD for writing then?
Yeah. I kind of mushed in a bunch of stories, but well, it'll make sense. So I transferred to SCAD to study writing, and at the time, it was like a new major as well. So it was like 3-4 years in, and it was mostly, there was like a screenwriting major which was in the dramatic arts, and then there was like liberal arts, writing, which was like journalism and nonfiction. So I was in that program. But all my best friends and roommates, like that were my age, because they were Kurt's friends. I adopted all his best friends pretty much.
Yeah,
So
that's
all my
what
best
happens,
friends and
yeah.
roommates were film kids, and they were going into their senior year when I transferred in as a freshman because of credits and stuff. So
Okay.
my first year, all my best friends and roommates were like my age, but they were like ahead of me in the school. And then after they graduated, I,
Yeah.
start all over, so to speak.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. So then, but how'd you get into production then? I mean, like,
Yeah,
'cause
well,
clearly that's
so-
what you want to be doing.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things, right? I didn't have that itch or bug as a kid of like, oh, I'm gonna be a filmmaker. I just always thought like films were cool, and everybody did because we all watch movies and TV shows and
Did
stuff.
you have any
but,
idea what you wanted to do?
in terms of
Like,
like my whole life? Like,
yeah,
as
I mean,
a
did
kid?
you have some plan that you abandoned,
I-
or you were just like, I didn't think that far ahead?
Dave, man, I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do.
You're probably in the majority there,
Oh,
so I
yeah?
don't think there's anything
Okay.
wrong with that.
My mom, at one point when I was like a wee lad, my mom was like, I remember her saying something because of like my way with words or something, that I would be a lawyer or something like that. But that's also like, again, like Nigerians, it's like education, success. So it was like,
Yeah.
you be a doctor or a lawyer
Some
or
sort of professional.
engineer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So even me now, like a lot of my family like shows me love and stuff. But I remember for a while feeling like a big outcast in the family because like most of my cousins, like my male cousins, are mostly like engineers, or they're some of them in the medical field too. Most of the women in my family medical field, like yeah, like it's just like
So film
I
is
was
not.
one of like one of these sort of like
yeah.
outcast in that regard. But yeah, man, how I got into film work is that I would help my friends and roommates like with their projects at SCAD, and then when I graduated after 4 years of like writing for the school paper as a staff writer, and then a stint as like the arts and entertainment editor, and I was like remotely writing for like a bunch of hip hop blogs and whatnot. I moved back to New York, and then for a bit I was writing for Solange, Beyonce's sister. She had a website called Saint Haran, and I was doing like music features for that. But it
Like
wasn't
reviews and stuff like that?
Yeah, like album
Gotcha.
reviews, song write-ups if a new song was
Yeah,
coming out, or
okay.
like culture pieces. So about like it was mostly R&B centric, but just like black music, culture pieces and whatnot. And that was a dope opportunity and like dope exposure and like great situation for moving back to New York after college and like just getting on the ground and running. But my journalism career wasn't going where I needed it to, and like I wasn't able to like really fend for myself financially, and I'm crashing with all my friends and my family sometimes and stuff, and it was just like, what's practical, and like what can I do? And Kurt at one time, because I was living with him, our other friend from college, Shane O'Hara, and his wife now, Lauren O'Connell, they were like really gracious and like allowing me the space to like figure my shit out. But I was like, man, what am I doing? Lauren's last name now is O'Hara because she's married to Shane. I should say that. I was just kind of like, what the fuck? And I remember Kurt at one point when I first moved back to New York, being like, why don't you get into production work? And me just kind of sort of wanting to stick to my path that I had already laid out. But it was always evident, even when I was at SCAD, that, you know, I could have changed majors and done film and probably been in a great place in terms of like passion and whatnot. But it just didn't seem practical financially because SCAD's already expensive on its own, and it's like changed majors in a time where I didn't even really know if I was going to be able to finish my program in the first place.
I hear
And
you.
It wasn't realistic, but I remember Kurt sort of nudging me in that direction and just being like, yeah, I'm way more open to that now. So I just told Kurt, like, hey man, like if you help me get a PA gig with one of the production companies you work with, I'll take it and run with it. Just like help me get the one. And at the time I'm working overnight stock at Uniqlo in Midtown Manhattan.
That's like that store that sells like the jackets and stuff.
Yeah, they're a Japanese company, but they're
Yeah.
all over the world, and
Yeah.
they're like the Japanese Gap, so to speak, but really like.
So you're doing some
high
sort of
quality
like
stuff.
stocking job.
Yeah,
at night, whatever.
stock,
Yeah.
10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I remember those hours, and then Kurt helps me get a PA gig with a company he was working with at the time called People's TV in New York. A lot of doc work and stuff like that. My first PA gig, I remember it was 8 a.m. and it was supposed to be at 12, so 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Mind you, I just worked 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I just leave Uniqlo.
Wait, but how old are you at that point?
Oh man, I'm 24.
That's no big
25,
deal.
25. Yeah, I mean, I had that drive. I was like, fuck it, let's go.
But anyway, that's crazy.
10 p.m. to 7 a.m. at Uniqlo. Hit the train. Get to, I forget where we were for that first gig, but like lower Manhattan essentially.
But you're totally psyched.
I'm psyched and I'm tired. And I'm like, I got adrenaline too. So I get down there, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I do that, and I'm pretty sure I had to work the next day or that same night at Uniqlo. I'm pretty fucking, so I pretty much just like running off of passion and drive at that point.
I love it.
I remember being on set and loving it, and like on that first gig, like somebody asked me what I wanted to do on set, and because of having enough experience with like my friends in college to like know the roles and like what's going on, I knew camera department right away, and I just latched on to like, I just always loved the idea of like being behind camera and operating camera. And at the time, from my experience, all the camera operators I knew were the DP operators, so I just said DP because I always thought, I mean, I like lighting and shit, but like the camera side of things was like always where I was drawn, so I said right away that I wanted to DP, and then from then on, I'll just bother every AC, every DP. Like, awesome. I'll be running and get coffee for production, and if I had time on set to like shadow those people, I would just shadow them, ask them questions. YouTube University, like, you know, whatever film books that Kurt and Shane had at the crib, like, I'd just soak up all the game I could. Got a like Canon T2i Rebel Series camera and like a 50 mil lens or something, and the nifty 50. And just like started shooting stuff on my own, and I mean, the rest is history, so to speak.
Yeah, well, but how'd you get into Steadicam?
Well, I always loved Steadicam. I gotta shout out Garrett Brown, because like one of my favorite like references for Steadicam before I like became a nerd about it was always The Shining. Yeah, man. On set, I would always love when we had Steadicam and like I'd get to watch those people do their thing.
You remember some of the early operators that you saw?
Well, I wish I could remember the very first one, but Tanner Carlson in New York, he's now a Steadicam. When I first met him, he was still first ACing primarily, but he was one of the first ones that I met who was transitioning at the time into Steadicam. So I think we did a music video. It was a few years into me working, but we did a music video with rappers T.I., 50 Cent, and this dude Rotimi, who's more of an R&B artist, but he was on the show Power. That's one of 50 Cent's shows. And I remember that was like one of the first gigs I saw Tanner Steadicam op on after being a first AC primarily, if my memory isn't lying to me here. But well, it was mostly when I got to LA, actually. Like my homie Sam Hessen, who now lives in Australia with his now wife, we worked on a lot of smaller projects with like Soul Pancake, who's no longer around, but they did like all these kind of like human interest story jobs. So like there was one job we did like a puppy pop-up where we just like a retirement home, a CrossFit gym, and like a children's nursery where we came through and just like shadowed and like we're fly on the wall, and then we brought like a bunch of puppies in just to catch the reactions of like people just going about their regular day and then having puppies come through. So stuff like that. But Sam wound up Steadicam operating on my friend Jacob Minacci he went to SCAD with me as well. Sam was like one of his go-to guys, so Sam did some Steadicam work on this puppet show called Future Puppet News that Jacob, it was like this sort of brainchild of Jacob's, but Sam, and this kind of ties into how I got into Steadicam myself. At one point, several years into my career and being in LA, Sam was like, hey man, like you're a great operator and you love camera stuff, like why don't you do Steadicam? And that was the moment, and that was in like early 2019. That was the moment I was like, I've always loved Steadicam, but I never considered it for myself because I never saw at the time a black Steadicam operator, and I knew like the barrier of entry financially and also skill-wise and physically. I just never even properly considered it for myself. So it took like a friend like nudging me in that direction for me to even like envision it. And then I was like, oh, but I can't afford that. And he was like, you know, I'll teach you for practically nothing. So I was like, cool, let's do it. But anytime we tried to connect to like do like, you know, those little lessons, I was unavailable, or he was unavailable, or I was out of town. Like we just couldn't sync up on that. So the irony is that Sam never got to teach me, but he put the battery in my back of like, oh, this is an option and I can consider it. And Dominic Jones, one of my good film friends and like collaborators, he's a DP that I operate for a bunch since 2019, 2020. At that time, I told him about that. I think it was like late 2019, early 2020. I had mentioned that I wanted to do Steadicam to him. But I just, my buddy couldn't sync up his schedule with me. And then he was like, oh, you should look up Steadicam lessons. So that's how I found out about Greg Smith.
Gotcha. Okay.
On Instagram. And I wound up reaching out. And at the time, I couldn't even afford like lessons with Greg because I'm like mostly second ACing. I'm operating here and there on a multicam stuff.
Yeah, but you're paying your rent.
Yeah,
else,
you know
like,
the hustle. So I'm barely getting by. But the whole time I was pushing to like move toward full-time operating. So once I was in a place to do that, which was like, I think it was like, late 2021, like I think it was like 85% operating, and that other 15.
And this is like commercials, music videos.
Yeah, commercials,
like
branded
stuff, right?
content, all non-union, commercials, branded content, digital shows, that world. Once I started having enough camera work.
And when you say you're operating and that kind of stuff, are you just sort of doing what you think is right and waiting to be framing wise and stuff?
Yeah.
You just sort of like, I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but you kind of making it up as you go along and then wait until someone says, I don't like that or I don't like this, or what? Are you watching movies to figure that out? How do you?
Yes. all the above, man. All the above. Something that's worked to my benefit for the most part is one that overall, even when I'm still learning, right now I'm still learning. I'm sure you can relate to that.
So am I.
Yeah. My sensibilities and like my love for cinema help just with a general like what is good and what's not good, but also recognizing that there's so many styles to pull
100%.
from. But I think my intuition like gets me a lot of props from my DPs and directors. So I think it's a little bit of just like studying the craft and like seeing great camera work. And also, obviously, following the action. Sometimes it's anticipating different things. But yeah, just being given like, sometimes it's like being given guidelines or some sense of how they want to capture things. But a lot of times it's just my gut, I guess.
That makes, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that.
Totally.
And actually, that's what makes operators great is that assuming that they have good tastes. and taste isn't the right word. They recognize what's going to be good for the project.
No
I
doubt.
think is a better way to put it.
No doubt.
And that they're willing to like actually go out there and push something.
No doubt. Yeah.
And at the same time go, oh, that ain't it. This is it.
Exactly.
Oh no, I'll do that. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a gamble, right? Like you do something bold or something you think is right, and maybe the director's like, "What the fuck was that?" And you're like, "Okay, now
do next."
now I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was someone I had in here who said that he did some shot in the. I think it might have been Don Divide. And his director said, "Well, that was horrible." And he's like, "Well, yeah, we're not going to do that again, are we?" And he just did, and he's like, "All right, now I know what you want or whatever."
Yeah.
But I hear you. So you're basically just out there hacking away at anything you can to learn and get better and better and better.
Big time.
And then did you start taking lessons from Greg at some point before you got a rig?
So that's pretty much where I was going. Is that once I got enough, like my rate started going up. Plus, like I'm just more operating than ACing, which was great. And I was like, all right, this is the time. So I reached back out to Greg and I was like, hey man, it's me again a year and a half later. Like I can finally afford a lesson with you. And that was November 2021. I'll never forget. And we put something on the calendar for January 2022. And I did that first lesson with him. And I was like, okay, I like this. It's heavy as fuck. It's hard.
Was it the first time you ever had a Steadicam?
It was the first time I put the rig on.
Wow.
Yeah, and
brand new.
2 hours with Greg, and he let me use his pro rig, which is like as you I'm sure can relate to. Most people think that's the Mercedes of Steadicam.
In many ways, it is. It was one of the best rigs ever made.
Yeah, it's fire.
Yeah.
So that was cool, but I was like, I need one more lesson to really decide if I'm going to commit to this and then invest in a rig. Did that second lesson, I was like, all right, bet, let's get it. And I had been talking to Tiffin about rig. I pretty much was doing my homework, and I was like, I could get a used rig. But I was so sincere about like this path and just camera operating at large. And to me, Steadicam is an extension of camera operating for myself. I know some Steadicam ops who just steady op and maybe will A or B cam if they have to or if it comes up on a job. Yeah. But I'm an operator and I love Steadicam and I want to add that into the mix. But I knew if I got a Steadicam rig, I would get offered jobs with bigger camera builds because I was full-time operating at that point. So, and I went through Able Cine to get my Tiffin rig. I have an M2, mostly all M2 pieces, but M1 bottom mechanics.
Went through Able Cine, meaning they have like a deal where you can finance it or something like that?
Yeah, they have a financing deal. Yeah. Which, I mean, any operator who's trying to, who's looking at used rigs and all this other stuff, weigh out all the options. But if you know you like are committed and you need to get a big rig out the gate, but you can't afford to, like, that's a great option. So I'm grateful to Able Cine and Tiffin.
Yeah, because they'll probably only, my guess is they probably only do new gear. Like, you can't buy someone's used gear that way or something like that.
I think that Able Cine and Tiffin, maybe if you do a workshop, last I heard from a friend who did it many years
they'll
back.
They'll cut you some sort of...
if you're a member or you participate in their workshop, they'll cut you a deal.
Yeah. Well, that's so you got your rig, and then did you just basically call everybody and say, I got a Steadicam, I'll come and...
Yeah, so I'm gonna name drop a lot as much as possible. I'm gonna forget some people or to say their full names, but like, and you can probably relate to this, and I really appreciate you as like a predecessor and embracing me. But like, once you get in a Steadicam, like all of a sudden you start to like get embraced by the Steadicam community for the most part. It's just like in a way that as a cam op, as an AC, and even people in other departments, I never see this. Like Steadicam has such a dope community of people just trying to look out for each other.
That's, by the way, that's Garrett. That came
like
from
he
Garrett.
set the tone.
And it came from Jerry Holloway and a bunch of people. But those beginning group of people, and I've said this before, Steadicam's amazing and I love it and it's changed my life. But the thing that's even cooler is that Garrett invented this thing that could be a really good, make you a good living and be a specialist and blah, 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 and all over the world and this and that and the other. But the one thing that he did was he said, we help each other out, all of us. I don't care who it is. Someone's rig goes down at 2 a.m. and I get a call. I'm driving it out there because if one of us fails, we all fail, and it's still that way, which I love. Yeah, man, that's so cool.
Call somebody in a pinch on a job, or even when we practice, we'll practice for an upcoming job or something that we learn we're not good at on a previous job. Different gear tips and whatnot, operating tips. So
that's great.
Yeah, I say that to say, well, I didn't get my rig right away. I had to wait. Tiffin had to I think maybe it was a back order situation or something like that. So I was waiting on my rig. I was wearing a Steadicam shirt on a job for Variety that I was like one of the operators on.
Conventional operators
on. And I met, was Zoe Lubeck, I believe is her last name. Sorry, Zoe. I met Zoe on that job. She was another conventional operator with me on that job. And she saw the Steadicam shirt and she's like, "You're an operator?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm still waiting on my rig."
But I only got the T-shirt.
Yeah, I got the Steadicam. I'm out here repping.
That's the start.
But it was cool because it was like an icebreaker in that regard too. And then she was like, "Oh, I got to invite you to like some of the practice group threads and all that." And like, because of Zoe, like right away, like even before I had a rig, while I was still waiting on my rig, now I'm going to these practices and other operators are letting me like use their
try
rig
their
and
rigs
stuff.
on.
Yeah.
Well, probably all of them can sort of like understand what it must be like to know that your rig's out there somewhere you don't have.
Yeah. So I'm waiting on my rig, but I'm still getting the reps.
So this was
now.
Over at Tiffin?
We were just practicing in the parks and stuff.
To show up at the parks, yeah. That's great.
Yeah, it was before Tiffin opened up their practice space.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And so you got your Steadicam and you basically just, once you got it, you just called everybody and started putting yourself out there? Or what do you, like?
It's funny, man. It happened in a few ways. So I was off Instagram maybe it was all of 2021. Yeah, so then in 2022 when I get back on it, I changed my handle at some point to Adeshola, just so people know and remember that I'm doing Steadicam now. Yep. So I'm posting videos from my lessons with Greg and stuff like that, and it's cool, man, because everybody that I worked with, whether I was a PA, an AC, back when I still used to do grip and electric and I was swinging, as an operator, etc. Everybody is now seeing that I'm doing Steadicam, and they're like, "Oh, I just like working with you. I know you're still starting out, whatever, but I'm keeping you in mind." So, I mean, a few things happened. One, people just saw my commitment and dedication. I'm just posting stuff from practices and whatnot. I just completely changed my approach to social media because I got back on. I was like, I don't even know if I want to be here, but you know what? I'll use this as an opportunity just for work, craft and like branding myself. And I mean, it really helped. You've given me props even on like my output on social media. So.
Yeah, you have social media down as far as I'm concerned, because the thing is, and anybody who's listening should go to check out Steadyshola, Steadishola, right? Steadyshola.
Yeah, you got it.
On Instagram, because the stuff that you post, it's like, look, it highlights what you're doing, but it's not. Look at how fly I am.
There's a little bit of that.
No, there's a little bit of that, but that's not. It's like that's not the whole thing.
Totally.
I mean, sometimes. I don't know. I see these things of just people like doing like stupid Steadicam tricks, and it's just like that's just showing off.
Yeah.
And this is more. No, I mean, like you're proud of it. Like I just did this music video, and here's me doing this move or whatever.
Yeah, it's more like my journey, I would say.
Which is great.
And that's cool because I don't journal anymore. I used to journal all the fucking time. Now I don't. So sometimes I use that as an opportunity to remind myself of like where I've been and where I'm going in my career. But yeah, I think that for me, it was just that people saw me doing it, and now they're like finding an excuse to like continue working with me. And like Steadicam is so niche and it's so expensive too. So I mean, obviously my first jobs out the gate weren't like huge, but there's like a lot of synchronicities that happen, right? I just want to shout out Tyson Galland. Is that how you pronounce his name?
I think it's Galland.
Yeah, I'm gonna fuck up so many last names. I can't be mad at anybody who mispronounces my name.
It's all good.
Tyson, man, shout out Tyson. He helped me get my first Steadicam gig.
He was working at Tiffin at the time?
No, he was freelancing.
Okay.
I think it's like maybe a year out from him leaving Tiffin.
Yeah.
Tyson was so great to me, and still is. Like I'll call him randomly with some thing I'm trying to sort out with my vault, and he'll be like, "Oh, did you do this?"
Yeah, he's also like the Vault Whisperer. The Vault is this
whiz kid.
What is Buzz Moyer calls it, a Horizon augmentation device, I think.
Yeah, Horizon assistant thing.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, we're getting into that thing we talked about with like Steadicam, like me getting into Steadicam specific stuff, but like. So much of Steadicam is like maintaining a horizon, right? And I have this thing called the Vault, which helps operators go out on jobs and not have to think about maintaining horizon and focus on the shot, the scene, etc. So Tyson helps me with that. But I say that to say, I bring him up because I almost had this Steadicam gig through a producer that I had worked with as a conventional operator. She hit me up for this gig, and then it kind of went away. And then Tyson reached out to me about a job, and then I said yes, like just put my name up, I'm down, I'm available, and it was like a low rate job. But the coincidence is that the producer reached out, and it was the same producer who was like talking to me about the job in the first place. So a job went away and came back to me through Tyson, and I'm super grateful for that, because the synchronicity there on top of that is that it was for these directors, Cootie and Chike, who had just had their multi-part documentary series about Kanye West come out. So they were like riding the wave of that, and I've always looked up to these guys. They've done like a lot of music video work and had this company called Creative Control that was like very big in like the music and hip hop world. And it was like one of the websites I wanted to like be a part of when I was doing my journalism stuff. So it was kind of like this multi-fold synchronistic alignment for me of like my first Steadicam gig out the gate was with these two directors who I've been looking up to for like 15 to 20 years. With a producer who I worked with on some other stuff, and a job that I thought went away that then came back through a Steadicam homie who has helped me out a lot. And it was on the Alexa 35, which brings me back to what I was saying about just getting a big rig outright. Because if I didn't have that rig, I couldn't have flown the Alexa 35 with Panavision Primos and filters and Mapbox.
Yeah, it allowed you to do the work.
Exactly, man. So that was my first gig out the gate. I think I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you did. But do you remember? Were you freaked out?
You know what's funny, Dave? I was freaked out, and I wasn't.
What? It was a music video, or what was it?
It was. Oh yeah, it was. It was a sizzle for a potential series.
Oh, okay, all right.
I think for Sky. I don't know if it's called Skynet.
So it was narrative. Was it? Like it was narrative.
It was a narrative.
Okay,
piece.
gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What was that? What was that like going out and going? Oh my God, I'm getting paid to actually do this.
Well, the rate was low enough that I didn't feel as shitty about like, am I qualified or not?
That helps, by the way. Right?
Yeah, no, big time. It was like, all right,
I'm doing you as much of a favor as you're doing me.
we're doing each other favors.
Yeah. Okay.
But on top of that, I also didn't want to like, when I found out, because I didn't find out until I had gotten the call sheet the night before, but I had gotten so accustomed to, like, as an operator, as a conventional operator and as an AC, of like just looking at who my ACs were, like my camera team, and not really looking at like the directors. That, yeah, for whatever reason, I didn't look at who was directing it, and it never came up. So then the next morning when I was like, oh, I should start looking at directors more as a Steadicam operator, because at that point I'm collaborating with the DP and the director more than as a conventional op for the world that I come from. And I was like, I should make a practice of looking at the directors. So I'm like pulling up the set, and I look at the call sheet, and I look at the directors, and it's Cootie and Chica, and I'm like, fuck, okay, it's a low paying job, and I'm like, you know, they're paying for my skill level, but also these are guys that I look up to, and I don't want to let them down. So that's where a little bit of my,
I hear you.
Yeah, plus like being a pretty good conventional operator, but like also like I had practiced my ass off from January up until that point, which was like September time. But still, you know, you never know what's gonna get thrown at you.
Absolutely.
So I was like, man, like I'm just gonna show up and do my best and be my best. And
that's the best you can do.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you a question. If you remember this, what was your biggest fear going into that? And was it real, or was there something else that tripped you up, if there was some?
My biggest fear was maybe, I would say, yeah, maybe a shot coming up or something being thrown at me that I wasn't good at yet.
Yeah.
I found that, and I realized this through a homie named Anthony Foster Visuals on Instagram. He was like the first black Steadicam op that I met those months leading up to me getting my rig and whatnot. Actually, right before I did my first lessons with Greg, meeting Foster on a job with Dominic Jones was like he was the first black Steadicam op that I had met. At this point, I knew of Xavier, who's also one of Foster's OGs, but like being on set with a black Steadicam op when I'm like pretty much about to like make that leap was like affirming for me. So Foster has been there for me here and there like throughout my journey and like supported me.
That's
but
cool.
One of like the first pieces of feedback he had ever given me was like pinning a subject in my frame. So if the subject needs to be or be maintained in the left third or in the center, like learning how to, you know, operate so well that you can like keep somebody somewhere they need to be in the
pivoting
frame,
on them,
whether
or
I'm rapping or whatever the case may be. So on that first job, I noticed that one of my weaknesses was like, granted it was a relatively tight shot, maybe it was like a 50 mil or 85 mil, but like just a few feet from subject, and I was leading them. I was walking backwards and they were walking toward camera. I noticed in like looking at the footage later, like I couldn't pin my subject at the time.
So they were moving within the frame, you're
Yeah,
saying?
and it was ever so slightly, but because of the focal length and the distance, like it showed up in a very major way. But my true Achilles heel, I found out on that job, I thought it was going to be low mode because we all fucking, low mode is having the camera, you know, anyways.
Upside down, it's a pain in the ass.
Not to get into all that. But it wound up actually being raps because there was this shot on this baseball field with some kids playing Little League baseball.
You mean wrapping around someone?
Yeah, wrapping
circular
around.
Move around
yeah,
someone.
and circular motion around like talent and the subjects while they're doing whatever they're doing. I was doing a rap like in the middle of the baseball field, right by the pitcher's mound, and I'm wrapping around with the camera from one side, like let's say I'm more frontal with the kid who's playing the pitcher, and he throws like a strike, and that's like the third out. So all his homies come around him, and they're all chanting and like praising him, and I'm wrapping around them, and I'm noticing like, you know, I'm not keeping them in the frame where I want and or need to, and I was like, oh, that was like one of my first opportunities.
Now
like,
I get it.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna take this and go practice my ass off with this thing. And
that was my next question.
Yeah.
So then you just go the next day and you just find
Practice
a tree and
it.
you wrap around it, or whatever you got to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now I'm pretty damn good at those. I'm sure something will come up on a job that humbles me, but like I've gotten way better. Like I'm talking like, and I got this from David Emmerichs too. Shout out to him. That was one of my weaknesses in that workshop I did with him and Chris Harhoff. So I remember him saying like he used to practice on like, I mean, over, I think he said 100 to 200 mil, like some crazy focal length to like really get good at.
It's like swinging with two bats. You swing with two bats and then you get up and you hit with one.
And it's it's that
100%.
type of thing. Yeah. So because of him, like even more recently, like maybe let's call it like 3 months ago, I remember like spending a lot of time in my apartment on like an 85 mil on my rig and just practicing like just tighter focal length stuff and getting way better at that.
You and Neil Bryant, give me a break.
Oh no, Neil's a beast, dude.
People
like,
who are practicing and all your time off makes me sick, but it's great. It's
shout
what I
out
used
Neil
to do.
Bryant, man.
Yeah, I mean, when I got my first rig, which was a Model 1, I lived in an apartment building, and I would every night from like midnight to 3 a.m. walk the halls of the apartment building, just pushing into fire extinguishers and going down the stairs and whatever. There's rarely anybody there, but I remember one night doing a push into some door, and I think I had a Walkman on. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's
I do. The CD player Walkman?
No, the cassette Walkman.
Oh, wow, okay, I know those too.
Yeah, no, but just and I would do sort of music video moves, like depending on what I wanted to work on, I'd have like Def Leppard or Enya or something, whatever, and I'd try to, and I remember. I remember very specifically doing a push-in. It wasn't even on my floor, but it was like doing a push-in on, the number on the door or something like that. And I'm like pushing in and I'm holding, and I'm like really psyched to lock up. And I'm looking down at the green screen, and all of a sudden there's someone in the frame like looking at me like going, what the fuck? And I realized that someone has opened the door, and there's this person with a camera. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I lived as a, and I'm thinking and I literally I don't even think I said, I just turned and walked away, went downstairs, closed the door, turned the lights off. And I was thinking like, I'm going to get the police called on me. And I didn't do the push-ins to the doors anymore.
That was the end of that.
But it was pretty frightening. But yeah, so that's what you do, right? Is you go, all right, I got to work on this, and I got to work on this, and I got to work on this. Now you are, well, the Instagram thing is interesting to me because it seems like you've gotten your name. You think you get a lot of work off of that?
I think it just reminds people what I do. I can't say I've booked any work off of Instagram. People ask me that all the time. I've gotten inquiries of people reaching out on Instagram. Yeah. But all my work, as I'm sure you can relate to, is usually just word of mouth from people I've already worked with.
It's word of mouth, but I'll tell you on my end, so I have a thing where if I haven't worked, well, not now because there's no work, but if I finish a job and I got a couple weeks off and then I start to get antsy and nothing's coming in or whatever, I have a way to sort of send out something to like a ton of people that I know and just go, hey, just finished the gig, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Because it just reminds them that I'm out there,
totally.
And I think Instagram's the same thing,
yeah,
right?
Man.
And actually, I've mentioned this before. There's one time I did it, and Peter Smokler, who's a DP I've worked with on sitcoms a lot, he emailed me right back, and he goes, I'm literally sitting in a meeting, and they just said they want Steadicam tomorrow. Are you available? And I got a job the next day. And
That's
just
fire.
Had I not emailed him, he probably would have been like, oh, who did I last work with? Oh, it's so-and-so. It wouldn't have been me.
No doubt.
So you just never know. But I think it's about putting it out there and just keeping it in people. So just to ask you another thing about the Instagram, do you have a thing where it's like, I got to post something every other day, or you just...
No, it's interesting, man. Sometimes I think, like if I have a post ready, I'm like, okay, should I look up what time of the day is the best time to post up just to get more visits? And I'm like, no, I don't give a fuck. And I don't have a schedule. I was just looking. I just posted for like the first time in like 2 months. I thought maybe it had been 1 month or something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Oh, is that right? I don't know. It seems like your stuff comes up all the time, but maybe
well,
it also gets
I post a lot
around.
in my story. I should specify.
Maybe that's what it
I post
is,
a lot in my stories and less so like post to my grid.
I don't quite understand why one's better than the other, but whatever. It's a mystery.
I think the grid. I mean, obviously it stays on your page, so there's always that. It's more of the evergreen, whereas the stories is 24 hours. I post on my stories, like if I'm on a job or I have something from a job I want to post, even if it's later, I just like to put stuff on my stories. But the grid is like the stuff that like whether like it stands out to me or it was a great opportunity or there's a great photo of the rig or I just want to like have something like the journal thing I was talking about.
It's almost like a way for you to keep track of it.
Yeah, totally.
So for up and coming Steadicam operators, you think that's an important part of it is having a social media presence?
I think you have to use the tools that are of the time, right? Like so. Not to age you, but like email back in the day and calling people from the phone book or just like popping into like.
Do you know what the LA 411 was?
No.
LA 411 was this book that was, 3 inches thick. Mm-hmm. And you opened it up and it was like production companies and craft service companies.
I think you talked about it on
and they had DPs and they had directors or whatever. And when I wasn't working, I would literally just go through the DPs and call them up and have their home phone numbers in there for the most part.
Yeah, man.
And I'd call them, and I remember very specifically, I was always psyched when they weren't home and their answering machine came on because I was like, oh, God, I don't have to like talk. I could just go,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And chances are they deleted it anyway. But it made you feel like you were doing something.
Yeah, you were
know?
actively trying to
At least
do
I'm
the
trying to
thing.
find work. But
Yeah.
that's interesting because that's a whole part of it that, I'm involved a little bit with, but I don't do on any level. So, and then at some point you hooked up with the ZG.
Oh, yeah. So we mentioned Neil Bryant earlier. He's probably tired of me saying this shit, but like major shout out to
I'll
Neil
cut this
Bryant.
part out.
I'll fucking look up to that guy so much.
Neil is a fantastic Steadicam operator, winner of last year's
Yes, SOC
Camera Operator
award.
of the Year
Yeah,
award. Very
yeah.
well deserved for what was it
his
called?
work on The Last of Us.
Last of Us,
which
that's right.
also is to get back to how I got involved with the ZG. I knew of Neil Bryant as being like the premier ZG operator. I had already like watched so many of his videos online about like tuning the Steadicam arm and like whip pans and stuff.
Yep.
But I recognized that he used the ZG on The Last of Us. So with every episode drop, and I think I got into the show like maybe 3 weeks after it premiered, so I was playing catch up. But they would have like, you know, BTS from the shooting of it, and I see stuff online about it. And I was like, oh, Neil Bryant, that's the guy who has a lot of resources about just Steadicam operating in
Yep.
general. Now he's using this like this ZG thing that's like tied to the Steadicam rig, but he's, you know, the guy who everybody knows is the one who's mostly operating it.
And for anybody who doesn't know, the ZG, which is ZEEGEE, is a thing that Charles Papert created that Neil sort of picked up. Charles had put down, Neil picked it up and turned it into something. Then Charles ended up creating it, and really now it's an official thing. But it goes on the Steadicam arm, but you can make it look like handheld, so you can run around with it. It's not as tiring. You can get low, you can get high, you can do all sorts of things.
Shoot telephoto lens work,
Yep.
handheld style without, you know, when you're shouldering the camera and you're like on a 75, 100 mil or something, like every little footstep or movement is translated into the frame. And if you're not a great operator, and even if you are, you get a lot
There's only so much you can do. So
Yeah.
the ZG helps take that out. You can
Big
limit it,
time.
whatever. So did you just contact the company and go, I dig this, what's up? Or?
No, I just admired it online. There were also a couple young operators like Garrett Gask and one other person who I'd seen playing around with it, and I've seen them on like Cinema Devices page. Shout out Cinema Devices. They're a big reason why I was able to get super
they
involved with the
manufacture it.
ZG.
Yep.
Yeah, they manufactured the ZG for Charles Papert. They took feedback from Neil, who had been sitting on it for like 8 years with Charles's prototype, and Neil gave them feedback about what could change. So when they made the first version that was through Cinema Devices, they made a new and improved ZG with Charles and Neil in mind. And yeah, they had posted. So Charles, through the ZG Instagram, had posted that there was an upcoming demo. So this is the same weekend. That weekend was so important to me as the SOC Awards last year.
Oh, no way.
It was the day after the SOC
Oh, that's right.
Awards
I remember that.
was that ZG demo.
Neil at some bar. I remember.
Yeah, Lawless Brewery
Lawless, yeah,
in
yeah.
North Hollywood, I
Neil
believe.
had a this is how you use the thing. Yeah.
Right, which was so special to me because I had already kind of been geeking out on it. And to then have the opportunity to go and see it being used and how to use it from the guy who's had the most time
Yep,
with it,
yep.
even more than Charles, like
Yeah.
Neil's the guy. So I went to that, the SOC Awards, and then
That's a good weekend
dude,
right
it was
there, man.
incredible. It was like one
That's
of those
great.
life-changing
Yeah,
weekends.
that's great.
So the ZG demo was really huge because now I got to see the thing personally in action. I got to try it on. I got to meet Neil finally. I saw him at the SOC Awards the night before, but I was like, he was like one table away from me. I'm like, I don't want to go bother this guy. But I saw, I was like, I'm gonna bother this fucking guy.
I'm
So I
glad
got
you
to
did.
meet Neil
Yeah.
properly, which was cool. I didn't get much time to talk to him because it was like he was overwhelmed. There was so many people.
Getting asked questions by everybody, but that was
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
But that was awesome
amazing.
for
So,
me.
and you've gone out because I've seen that on Instagram. That's how I know is you've gone out and used that quite a bit.
Yeah. Once I put the ZG on at that demo, I was like, oh, I love Steadicam, but Steadicam, as you know, is like, it takes a while to get great at it. Like, I picked up the ZG and I was like, oh, this is like, I had
get
already
this.
had reps in as a cam op and
Yep.
as a Steadicam op, so it was a lot more intuitive and easy to use out the gate. And then I think there is a gap of like, I've seen Neil play with the ZG and I've seen me play with the ZG, and he's doing shit that I can't even do yet.
Yeah.
So there is that, but I was like, oh, I want one of these, so whatever. I built a relationship with Cinema Devices because, you know, Ariel took a liking to me at the demo, and then I got some one-on-one time with Adam when I went to their offices like the next day, and I helped them at NAB, and we worked out a deal with me getting a ZG. So then from then on, I was like, because I demoed it for people at NAB with them, I was like, I'm just gonna like, as much as possible, spread the word about this thing because I love it and I see the use of it. So because I own one, I've been able to like bring it on to jobs, kind of like what Neil did, where he essentially had the prototype and was like,
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna bring it on a job and spread the word about it. So I took a lot of cues from him. So I've taken it on jobs where I've gotten like, I don't know, like a small kit fee, but I've taken it mostly on narratives and gotten nothing for it, but I just want to spread the word.
Yeah, and also you get better at it, you realize how to use it better and whatever, you close that gap.
Totally.
But that's great. So at this point, you're doing mostly what, music videos and commercials, some small narratives and whatnot? Yeah,
I've done, I think in the past 2 years since I got into Steadicam, how many short films? Really, I started doing short films as a Steadicam op just over a year ago. So it was like a year into Steadicam that I started doing narrative. I think I've done, let's call it 10 short films in a year.
And how do you get into that? Is it just word of mouth, or is it like you put your name out in certain communities, or what do you do?
Most of the short films that I've done have been with DPs that I work with on like branded commercial music video stuff, but then they'll do like the low budget short film because they want to do narrative, as do I. Like narrative work is really where I'm fulfilled. But to make a living as a steady cam op working on commercials, like,
pays
you know, like I'll fucking do it. But I try to balance it out with like, okay, let me go do this narrative project because that's the stuff that I love that made me get into this in the first place. So yeah, it's mostly through my connections in like the commercial branded world and digital shows too, that I end up getting like the narrative projects as well. But I did my first feature this year. It was technically 8 pickup days for a feature that I was not on principal photography for, but it was my first feature, and that's a big deal to me.
Were you A camera on that as well?
I was C cam Steadicam.
Okay.
It was with Sean Lupton. He's a DP that I met on a short film that I did at the end of last year called Snickerdoodle, with Brandon Bordeaux, the director. Brandon reached out to me through a mutual friend of ours. And it was one of those instances that like the director and producer reached out to me. I didn't know the DP, and I try to avoid those. I'm sure you can relate, like, because usually I want the DP to want me there or to know me.
Yeah.
That way there's no resentment of like they had their person they wanted to bring on, but the director or producer is like kind of treating me like a must hire, and like now I'm like somewhat of a liability.
It's a weird place to be. Andrew Mitchell and I have talked about this because he's got a huge in with Ryan Murphy, and Ryan Murphy will sometimes be like, Andrew's your operator, and Andrew will call him and go, look, just so we're clear, if you don't want me here, just
say the word.
Let's talk about it so I'll figure something out. I don't want to be, and most of them realize, no, you're a great operator, producer / director, whatever, is happy with you. Of course I want you, but I hear you. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
How'd the feature go?
Well, that worked out. So I'll finish the tidbit and I'll tie that in. I met Sean Lupton, the DP, on that short film Snickerdoodle with Brandon, and it was one of those things, like I got there and pretty much right away, like, I mean, we were undercrewed and it was like an indie short film, so like me and Sean didn't really get to know each other at all, and honestly we're just playing catch up the whole shoot. So toward the end of it, I was like, I don't even know what this guy thinks. Like, we talked a little bit about shots, and like for the most part he saw what I was doing and he liked it, but it was one of those things where I couldn't really read the situation. I was like, I don't even know if me and this dude are ever gonna work together again. And as we were wrapping out, he was like, hey man, I might be DP and pickups for this feature. I might want to bring you on. And I was like, okay, well that's cool. Now I at least know where I stand with this guy. But then I don't know if this thing is really even gonna happen. And then long story short, a couple months later, I'm in Ghana. I had wrapped the Kendrick Lamar tour stuff in South Africa, and then I met my girlfriend in Ghana because we went for her friend's wedding. And while I was there on vacation, I got reached out to by the producer from the feature film. It's called No Address. And then we had to figure out rate and all that. I had to negotiate. But Sean like pretty much essentially like treated me like a must hire, and I had to like really validate to them that I was worth bringing on because it was in NorCal and they had people up there and all that. But me and the producer Sally, shout out to her, we got along pretty well and we worked something out. And
That's great.
the feature, to answer your question, went really well, man. It was my first feature. It meant a lot to me. It meant a lot that Sean fought for me to be on it. It meant a lot that production wound up being super happy with like paying to fly me up, meeting me close to my full rate, and flying my gear up and shit. They loved me at the end of it, which meant a lot because it made Sean look good. It made me
100%.
look good,
Yeah.
and I had fun. Like our camera team was dope. The whole squad was great. And,
That's great.
Yeah, I felt like I delivered a lot as a steady cam op and also as a camera operator in general. Yeah.
And do you think that, I mean, having mostly worked on commercials and music videos and whatever, and I want to ask you about the Kendrick
Yes.
Lamar thing because that sounds fascinating. Do you think that, like, could you see yourself growing since you were on a narrative thing? Like, did new stuff open up, and did you learn, you remember stuff you learned?
I felt like I brought stuff to the table, and then there was opportunities for me to learn. Like Sean helped guide me in terms of like how to tie pieces together, like how to open a scene and like help it have some sort of momentum. The best thing I could use as an example is like, I don't know, working on like mostly commercials or like narratives where maybe there's less of this sort of thing. We'd start a shot, right? And he would be like, pretty early on the shoot, he was like, hey, I want you to like almost start moving the minute we say action. So it's almost like a pre-walk to kind of like create some momentum in the scene. Yeah, I just learned like little things like that of like, I guess, I don't know how you would label that or if there's an actual technical term for that, but like just creating energy in a scene, even if it's just a walk and talk of like.
And then do you find yourself starting to think more about the edit when you're now that you're in narrative?
Yeah, I think so. I think even, I've done just my little one-off projects where I directed or did some editing work, and I'm like, it helps me think about that, and like,
Yeah.
especially if there's an editor on set in general, I'm like, yo, what do you think? Well, what can we do to make sure you have everything you need? I'm super mindful of that now for sure, and that's through a lot of my narrative work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, don't discount those things because those things you're making on your own, you're able to make mistakes and you learn from it.
Yeah.
But the best thing in the world, well, not the best thing in the world, but one of the great things is when the editor after 2 or 3 weeks comes down and goes, hey, by the way, the stuff you're giving me is great. You're like, you're giving them opportunities, right?
Yeah, that happened on the feature.
That's fantastic.
Alex, one of our editors, was there, and he was like, yeah, like you guys, he even showed us stuff like
That's great.
right before we were done with the thing. He showed us like little things he cut together from all our cameras and all that.
Yeah.
And they were essentially like rewriting the film because from principal to the pickups, it also became a pickups reshoot sort of deal where they changed some elements of the story.
Yeah.
And Alex really affirmed for us that like what we were doing was cutting together. So that was great.
That's great.
And that helps me to this day, like keep in mind the edit for
Yeah.
sure.
You mentioned a couple times being a black Steadicam operator and other black Steadicam operators, and I'm wondering, do you feel, because like I don't understand, like I have no frame of reference for something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I just wonder, do you feel like a sense of responsibility that you want to, or is that just part? I mean, it's obviously clearly it's part of who you are. I mean, but
Yeah.
do you feel like a weight of that?
I wouldn't call it a weight, but yeah, there is like a sense of responsibility of like the visibility side of it, right? Because like I said, I hadn't seen a black Steadicam op, so I just never considered it for myself. And then, once a white friend, kind of nudged me to try out Steadicam, I had always thought it'd be cool, but I just like, I don't know how I could even afford to think about doing it. So it took somebody just being like, hey man, you should try it and I'll help you. And then me just kind of finding my path from there. But like, if I saw one earlier, I probably would have considered it way earlier. So, and I'll tie this actually to the SOC. It was really cool because this year they reached out to me through Nick. Actually, his full name is Nick Hearn Sutton to feature as a feature post for their Black History Month stuff.
Oh, cool.
And a part of me kind of feels like that stuff is like, I don't know, kind of corny, so to speak. But I also recognize how important it is, like, for somebody else to see a young black Steadicam operator. So I was really grateful that the SOC reached out.
Well, that's kind of why I asked,
Yeah.
because you sort of made it sound like you would wish you had seen more of that. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering whether you feel the weight of like
Yeah.
making sure that's out of there for other people.
I had to get out of my own way about that. Like I felt it was a great opportunity, and I had like mixed feelings about stuff like that in general. But then I thought about it, like this is bigger than me too. So like by me doing that, even and like them featuring the SLC featuring me on their Instagram and Facebook, like I got reached out to by, or just saw in the comments, like young black people who want to do camera work, and like they see this guy who's doing it, you know, even, you know, as early in my career as I am with Steadicam in particular, like them seeing somebody doing it helps them feel like they can do it too. So I feel a responsibility, like not to, you know, I don't know, let my, whether it's my ego or like imposter syndrome, even like the other end of the spectrum,
which we
like,
all have,
you know, like be like, yo, I'm still learning, but like I'm here, and like you can do it too, and you can reach out to me. And you know, I've had people reach out and want to talk about Steadicam because of that too. So yeah.
So Kendrick Lamar, so this is concert stuff. You're up on the stage.
Yeah, this is crazy. Shout out my homie Reed Chowinski. I got the opportunity to camera operate on tour with Kendrick Lamar last year. He was doing a run of music festivals essentially. The year before that, 2022, he put out his most recent album, and he had an album tour. And then last year was all music festivals essentially. In 2022, when they did that tour for the album, they did a stop in Paris, and for that Paris show, they did an Amazon live stream of that. And Dave Free, who's a business partner of Kendrick Lamar's, and Mike Carson, they like co-directed this thing. And I mean, I'm just fans of them in general. I used to watch Mike Carson music videos, like when he used to do stuff for Big Sean, like, you know, 10 to 15 years ago and stuff. So it was cool just seeing him elevate his craft and do stuff with Kendrick Lamar and his company PG Lang. But I say all that to say that I'm watching this live stream. Kendrick Lamar is one of my favorite artists of all time. And I'm watching this stream, and they have some incredible cinematography and camera work. And the Steadicam work was really impressive. So I'm watching this thing, and I'm like, man, I got to reach out to whoever this Steadicam operator was. So listed in the credits was Reed. And I mean, I pretty much just reached out to him on Instagram. I was like, hey, dude, like, I love your work on the Amazon live show, whatever.
By the way, there's nothing better than getting out of the blue someone you don't know, someone saying, I love what you're doing. It's the best thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. I haven't had those yet. I get like little
Your
versions
stuff's just not
that.
out there enough, but it'll happen. Yeah.
And Reed was super gracious. He was thankful that I reached out like that. And pretty much I was like, hey man, like whenever you're in town, like, cause I know you're on tour, whenever you're in LA, like love to get coffee. So true to his word, when he got back, he let me know, and we got coffee, and like we've become friends essentially. But last year when they were doing that music festival tour, the other operator who was operating alongside Reed, it was just conventional on this tour for the most part. There was some stops where we had Steadicam, and Reed did Steadicam in LA for that, and then there was one stop in overseas somewhere where we had we had somebody from London who was on the team for whatever reason doing Steadicam. But last year when they were on the festival tour, the other operator, Jared, him and his wife were about to have they were expecting their first kid. So he knew he was gonna like leave at some point to be a present father and husband. So when that happened, Reed put my name up with the director, and the director reached out to me, Damien Gravoy, I believe is how you say his name. Damien reached out and was like, hey man, like reaching out about your availability. I didn't know who, like why he was reaching out, or like who from. He was just reaching out about like some live work, and I was like, yeah, I'm down. And then he told me it's for Kendrick, and I was like, oh, Reed must have put my name up. And I asked him, and he was like, yeah, and I was like, that's fucking crazy. Like, mind you, Kendrick's one of my favorite artists, like I said, so it was just a huge deal for me, like as a camera operator, like in general, and then like to think of like the size of artist that Kendrick Lamar is, but also huge. Like to me, like it was huge. But I had also just had a dream a couple of days before that, and Kendrick Lamar was like in my dream. I was like producing some show in a hospital that like some almost like a benefit thing that he was like gonna be performing at.
That's great.
And my mom was in the dream, and it was like the morning of Father's Day. My mom and dad have both passed away, so it was like a really like powerful, like meaningful dream. And Kendrick Lamar was associated to that dream. So to get reached out to like 2 days after that about this job to go operate for him was like, it was huge, man. So Reed helped get me.
So you're
involved.
well, first of all, I'm assuming these are concerts with 20, 30, 40,000
So many people.
I mean, just that. And are you up on the stage?
Yeah, so Reed and I were the cameras 3 and 4 that were in the pit, so at the very front of the stage, essentially.
So you're in front of this. I mean, the energy must just be
Insane. I'm still processing that shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, the closest
Yeah.
thing I did an Erica Badu music video where it was a
Okay,
concert,
dope.
but it was probably 5,000 people, and that was nuts being up on stage for that. But I can't imagine these things. So are you
Yeah.
doing? And that kind of thing, do you have the same, like every concert, are you sort of like you've got the drummer or you've got Kendrick or you've got, like you have the same thing, or are they just talking you through it live as they go?
Damien's talking to us in our headsets, and this is broadcast. Like we're essentially operating for the show, so the jumbotron.
Oh,
or
you're shooting the
whatever.
jumbo. Okay,
yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, we're capturing for that. So we have 4 cams. I think we just had local people operate cameras 1 and 2, which were front of house cameras.
Big wide or
And
something.
yeah, me and Reed are doing 3 and 4, and we're essentially on Kendrick. Damien would sometimes shout out to us on comms. I was the camera that would go to the dancers a lot, but if there was because sometimes our risers weren't the specs that they asked for whatever reason, so sometimes our shots were slightly different than we wanted. So if there was, I don't know, like a speaker or like a piece of pyro gear in my frame at a certain part of the stage, then Reed would just pivot and like grab some dancer shots if I couldn't get them. But I was pretty much Kendrick and dancers because he has like these dancers that do
What
these
a blast,
shows.
man. And how many
Yeah.
shows did you do?
I didn't count, but I think off the top of my head 10 or 12 because we had 2 weekends of Austin City Limits. I came on for Chicago, for Lollapalooza, Montreal, Oceaga Fest, and SF Outside Lands. And I call that essentially like my trial period
Yeah.
because then from there, then I got asked to come back on. We did Austin City Limits. We did Vegas Day and Night. So that's already 5, plus Austin City Limits was 2 weekends, so that's 6. Atlanta for 1 music festival. What else did we do? I think that's most of the.
What a
Oh,
blast.
LA for Flognaw.
Uh-huh.
Then we did overseas. I couldn't do Japan with them like I wanted to because they brought me on so last minute, and it was like
Yeah.
some sort of visa thing.
Visa,
but
yeah.
so that sucks. But I've been to Japan, and I would have been sick to go back. But I did Brazil, which I'd always wanted to go to Brazil. We did. We weren't in Rio. We were in what the fuck is this place? It's gonna kill me now. We did Brazil for F1. There was like some concert for the F1 festival.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and yeah, we did Rwanda.
Wow.
Yeah, Kigali, Rwanda, and we did South Africa. So yeah, that's like 10, I think. Yeah, incredible.
What a gig, man. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And it just felt bigger and bigger.
You must have
like,
just been
South
in
Africa was
heaven. I mean,
insane.
like you said, it's the perfect storm. And you get, and also all that live stuff. I mean, that's where your operating all comes in because you got to make instant.
Dude.
There's no second take.
And like from the first show, and I feel super fortunate, and that's to tie it back to like the thing I was saying about like my gut instincts as an operator. Like they had like a well-oiled machine, and Kendrick and his team, they brought for the most part the same team on from the album tour to do the festival tour last year, and everybody kind of knows the show. The show changed between those 2 tours, but like everybody knows the gig, and I came on to replace somebody, so you can kind of.
You just got to slide in and not make any noise.
And from that first show, Damien was like, dude, you get it. And
that's
I
great.
think that's part of the reason why Reed, put me up for the job.
He sensed
too.
something in you, I'm sure. It wouldn't, and he's not going to stick his neck out for somebody who doesn't
Totally.
know. You're an asset.
Yeah,
That's
so I
great.
just felt really like, even though it was my first show when we did Lollapalooza, I felt like Damien was talking to us in comms and he would big me up if I was doing something really well. And there wasn't any moments where he's like, dude, don't do anything like that again. Like, so Reed gave me a heads up on what they were doing, and then like my gut instinct kind of like filled in the gaps. And from that first show, Damien was like, yeah, you get the gig. So.
Well, and it's also got to help. I got to assume you know all the music, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
a fan. And also, but there is something to the fact that
That's
you're
true.
a fan, and
That's
like
true.
there's I mean, I got to assume. Like if I was doing something like that for someone I was just nuts about,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to make him look bad. Like I
doubt.
only want to lift him up, right?
No
so
doubt. Yeah,
That's
a huge factor. Thanks
That's
for pointing
amazing.
that
Well,
out.
if you
Yeah.
do it again, you need a cable guy. Give me a call.
Yeah,
I'll
dude,
come with you.
I gotta humble you a little bit.
I'd
'cause I
be
know-
fine with that. I'd go all over in cable. Although I just need earplugs, but that's about it.
Oh,
but
yeah, me too,
that's what a dream, man. Well, that's so great that you got to do that.
Yeah,
That's-
big time.
on so many levels. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. So what's like what's the 10-year plan?
Oh man,
Because you're in the middle of it. Are you in the union yet?
I'm not. It's
Okay.
funny. Everybody thinks I am, and this is a recurring conversation. I started the process. I think, and I'm not gonna bash the union. I think the union is important. I have a beef with the whole contract services,
No, you're not the only one.
industry experience roster situation, which we don't have to get into all that.
Yeah.
But eventually, at some point, yes,
Yeah.
like in the next year or so, I want to join the union.
No, look, the union is fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
but the reality is the people who are trying generally to get in the union are at the beginnings of or earlier in their career. And if you're
Totally.
earlier in your career, you're not making quite as much money, and the union costs a lot of money, and
costs
they
a
have
lot of
ways
money.
to do it, but it's a tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but-
a lot of people express their hardships or frustrations. But I've also had so many union homies, or even like Baird. He's like tried
Baird
to help
Steptoe,
me. Yeah,
yeah.
Baird Steptoe.
Presently the president of the union, and also
Yeah.
a career like
AC.
first AC,
Yeah.
who's been around and done everything. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
tried to help me. I've had so many OGs. I've been really fortunate.
So you're just waiting for the right opportunity to do
Yes.
it. Well, it makes sense
So-
because it's like it is a chunk of money, and unless you got something going on, I mean that's what we all did. Generally
Yeah.
speaking, it was this was the way it was.
But I most recently started. In the past 2 months, I had to turn down like 3 union jobs, and 2 of them I passed on to a homie. Shout out to homie Edward Hill. He's another Black Steadicam op who he's younger than me, but I look up to him because he's been doing this longer than me.
Okay.
It's cool because I had to turn down those jobs, but I was also able to give another operator those
Yeah,
jobs.
that's great.
So I'm not in a union yet, and for a while I was like, oh, I'll just wait till the union wants me. But now that I'm turning down union jobs, I'm like, fuck.
Well, that's the thing. At
maybe
some
it's
point,
time.
you're gonna go. Yeah, exactly. But so what's like the 10-year? Like you want to be doing features basically? You want to be doing TV? What do you?
Yeah. I think so. Ideally, the way I see it in my head when I envision it is, most of the year I'm either on an ongoing show for 2-3 months. I'm on maybe 2 features a year, a month a piece, and then just in between commercials.
Yep.
And music videos. Man, I'm generally super selective right now. I'm taking all the things, but I feel like for me in music videos as a Steadicam op, I just hate those jobs where it's just put the rig on and run around.
Let's
and
find it.
It's economic, so they're just we hired you, we're gonna get as much of it as
Yeah,
we
I
can,
remember those
and do
well.
the thing where you turn the rig around.
Yeah.
I like music videos on Steadicam where it's intentional. It's almost like narrative,
narrative,
pieces.
yeah, like a story, yeah,
So
yeah.
all that to say, several of those in between. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And then I'm assuming that you've spent time on the wheels and whatever. So you're
Dude, I
Yeah.
love the wheels. Sometimes I go to Panavision Hollywood and practice.
Nice.
Otto Neiman's had a wheels workshop last year that I went to just to go practice, essentially. And then, I did Greg Smith's Techno Crane seminar last year,
Mm-hmm.
which got me into using the wheels as a remote head and actually doing Techno Crane
That's
wheel
fantastic.
work, which was huge, man. It almost just made me. It was just there are no limits. To be able to do something like that
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have done for another 5 to 10 years, and do that with him. I just invested in myself, paid to do that seminar with him, and got
That's
to really
great.
take shit to the next level. So
Well, and I'll tell you this: if you are on a show, and I've said this on here before, and your C camera or B camera, and there's a big techno crane shot, if they have extra headsets, put on the headsets and listen, because that's
Yeah.
one of those things the operator and the techno crane guys and the dolly grip. It's
the
just
communication.
the communication and how to set it up. It's one of those
Yeah.
things that the only way you can really learn it is either by doing it, which is not the best way to
Yeah,
learn,
no
although
doubt.
it does happen, or by listening over the headsets and hearing all that, because it's just there's so much involved in it. And I actually just started, a lot of the drone guys now, you can use the wheels with the new what is it? I don't know, the Inspire 3 or something like that, but the wheels now hook up to it. And so
Yeah.
I was on a show where for the first time they were using the wheels, and they were sort of flying. I was like, wait a minute, let's pick a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. And after I did it, it was like, oh yeah, that works really well. And it just, it was something that they hadn't experienced before. And I was like, yeah, we're just going to do it the same way we do a techno crane. It's just you can do a lot more.
Yeah.
And granted, their points are a little harder to find because the techno crane can only go where it can go and this can go anywhere. But still, it was amazing to like sort of be a part of that and go, no, there's a way this works and let's just do it this way. It's fantastic. Well, this was all amazing to hear. I'm going to leave you with the question that I ask everybody.
Okay, yeah.
Someone starting out, you right now maybe, you're not starting out, you're way past that and you're about to explode, I think. What advice you give them for succeeding?
As a Steadicam operator or just in general?
You decide.
Interpret. My advice to somebody starting out in Steadicam or in anything that they want to do is like, do whatever research you can, like with the resources you have, whether it's online, YouTube, reaching out to people on Instagram or their websites, just like studying the craft of whatever it is you want to do, and then bothering the people who are doing it already, like whether it's like make time to teach you or you flying out doing a lesson with somebody, like a Greg Smith for Steadicam or whatever the case may be. And like, don't be afraid to pivot either if you feel like you want to do something and then like you have a change of heart about it. Like for me, I started out with writing and that was my way to like go to Savannah and then be surrounded by film kids. And then eventually one day I had to decide, do I want to still try to keep doing this journalism thing or do I want to pivot and do something else that makes more sense? And like now that I'm in film work, like it's 10 years since my first PA gig. So I've been in this industry as a word of mouth, freelance, creative person. And it blows my mind it's been this long, but like I was able to do this because I wasn't afraid to pivot and like leave the thing I thought I wanted to do when I realized it wasn't working out. So yeah, soak up whatever game you can, bother people, and also don't be afraid to change your mind.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.